to you?
It's so important to understand where your money's going, right? You have all this money coming into your business, and if you don't look to see where it's going, then it's just they're going to run away. Every dollar you bring into your company is like an employee to your company.
Hmm.
So if you have $1,000 that come in, you have $1,000. You have 1,000 employees. You got to tell every employee what to do. And if you don't watch that, if you don't set a budget to that dollar, it's going to run away. It's going to go party, and it's never going to come back.
Please welcome America's service sales coach, Joe Crisara.
Welcome to the Service MVP Podcast, the show that helps home service professionals master high-value sales, build stronger client relationships, and grow their business like never before. Join industry experts as they share real strategies that drive results. If you're ready to level up your service game, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
It's the Service MVP Podcast.
Thank you for listening and watching the Service MVP Podcast. I want to give you a copy of my free book. Just click on the link below in the description and one will be sent to you from me personally. Thank you so much for listening. Welcome to the Service MVP Podcast. My name is Joe Crisara, America's Service Sales Coach. And we have with us Mr. George Blitch, who is from All Out Cooling and Heating in Arizona. Specifically, I believe he's in part of the Phoenix metro area, right, George?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm out of actually Chandler, Arizona, so not far.
Well, thank you for being on this show today. So today, George, I wanted to talk about lessons learned from the HVAC industry as someone who has, started up small, but has grown from the ground up, a kind of a bootstrap business from the ground up. And tell us about the lessons learned while you've done this. So number one, tell us a little bit how you got to the position where you finally started your own company, and what was the thing that inspired you to even begin this enterprise?
Well, I've always wanted my own business. I knew that, I just didn't know what trade or what industry or what, where to have it at. But I moved out to Phoenix area back in 2007, and that's when I started my HVAC career. So I've been doing this almost 20 years, and I've started from the ground up, working as an installer, then moved up to a maintenance tech, then a service tech, then a senior service tech, and then I got to a point where I was like, okay, well, I can do this. And then I got into a position where I was able to open my own business, which I did. And then first 5 years, I basically owned a job, right? I took the call, booked the call, ran the call, did everything under the sun for that. And that's how we did. And then I joined a better business practice company called Service Nation Alliance. And so shout out to them, because I think it's important for guys who are just starting off. You need some guidance on how to run a business. I knew how to be a technician, but I didn't know how to run a business. Mm-hmm. And then through that, that's basically how I found about you, Joe, is through an expo and what they have. And I've heard of other people using your sales training, and it's been heard all great things from everyone. So then I picked up the book, What Should We Do? And I listened to that. I listened to that probably, it's been 5 times I've listened to that book. So it's kind of ingrained to me.
Well, there seems to be, George, a theme with companies that are going from that. I would say there's companies who are before enlightenment and after enlightenment. Does that make sense? Like, there's like the kind of like an area of, we're kind of lost in a way, and then an area where it's like the path becomes much more clearer. Does that make sense? And yes. Definitely one thing, that's the reason I had you on here, because there's not a lot of people who are, in the middle of that path. And I think you're off to a good start. But I think one of the things I see is obvious just by your background behind you, which is it's kind of a formula that I've noticed in companies that are successfully growing from that bootstrap startup to being financially successful. Is number one, the branding. And it looks like you put some thought and effort and expense and investment into that branding. And number two, training your team to live up to the brand, because the brand is definitely aspirational, but then making sure your people are as good as the brand looks. That's kind of a simple starting formula. And then from there, the marketing and everything becomes a lot easier now because your brand is noticeable, your people are performing, you get the reviews. So you got before the doorbell rings with the branding and which helps on the marketing and the image, but then after the doorbell rings, what you do and getting the 5-star reviews, kind of that complete experience. Could you go ahead and just tell us a little bit of a journey you took on and where you were before and where you are now with those phases, the branding, getting the guys to perform up to the brand, and then, getting those reviews and that type of thing. Just tell me how, what that experience has been like for you. Can you kind of give us a little bit of
Yeah.
if you had to give
So,
somebody some advice on that, what would you say on that?
well, I mean, when I first started the business, I started out in my 2000 Chevy Blazer, and then I got into I had my company name, and then I got into a van, and it was a big red, white, and blue van, just like every other AC company out there. Red, white, and blue. It's American. It had way too many letters on it, too much wordage, and then I'm not a branding expert. I was a technician at heart. So, part of that, those first 5 years, I was just doing it. And then, I'll go back to that Better Business Practice company, signing up with them, it just taught me so much, and it just opened up a whole new world of actual business. So yeah, branding is number one. That's especially when you're small, you have the opportunity to do it where it's not going to be detrimental to your pocketbook, right?
Mm-hmm.
And pick a good brand, and then stick with it. People notice us everywhere now. I mean, we only have a few trucks on the road, but boy, people just say, "I see your trucks everywhere."
Yeah.
And it's just because the brand is so powerful, and and the colors pop. So that's really a big point. This is a art of work from Dan Antonelli with Kick Charge. I'm not a branding guru, but he is, and he's worth the money, and it shows because everywhere we go, everybody notices us, and now we're becoming a staple within our community that people
Mm-hmm.
know us.
Yeah, I think
And
that's
that,
number one thing is that it's something that they reference because it gets an indelible imprint. Interesting thing was, we scheduled you for this podcast, and you were in my class this last year. You were at the training class, and you're sitting in front of me for 5 days. You had the pleasure and honor of being locked into a room for 8 hours a day with me, with each other. We learned a lot about each other in that week, and I really was very happy to have you on today. But the interesting thing was like, oh yeah, I can't remember what company. And then as soon as you came on, I'm like, oh dude, what am I thinking? Of course, all out. And I even have the little bird. I even have your little mascot, your bird that I was given by your technician like last spring. I got that little bird and I keep it. I'm like, it's just too valuable to throw away. I mean, it's something about the thing. It just creates value. And I think that's really the key to business really is like before you even walk into the restaurant or you call the company, that there's a certain sense of value that's kind of established, that this isn't going to be a fly by night. This is going to be somebody who looks like they belong in this community. And even though the mascot, there's probably not a lot of tropical birds flying around Phoenix, Arizona, or Chandler, Arizona, it's just something that it makes us happy. It makes us smile, when we see that kind of a thing. What do you think of that?
The colors pop, right? The colors say it all. And who doesn't like a little colorful bird? And you get a little stuffed animal like that, and all the kids love it. But then it's okay, so once you have the brand, what else do you do? When I was in the training with you, my shirt looked exactly like the logo.
Mm-hmm.
All colors. When you do branding, it's got to look it's got to look just alike in every single brand you do. Whether it's a shirt, whether it's the vehicles, whether it's ads that you post on Facebook or Google, whatever. Everything's a brand awareness, and it all has to look the same. So
Yeah.
that's one way of doing it, right? And then so yeah, it's been great to get the brand in place. Another big thing for small entrepreneurs is like you have to know your numbers, right? Even in the when we were in the training, you saw me like helping other people's with numbers, right? And a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of small business owners just
you,
don't understand numbers.
you took somebody under your wing there and just said, "Hey, let me just go over there." I still remember one morning you were there talking about that. And so, how important is that part? Is like, okay, having the brand and trying to sell stuff, but if you sell it at the wrong price or you don't know what you need to get for each job, it's possible to sell more work and go broke because you're not making enough money in each job. Does that make sense there?
That's absolutely makes sense. So it's a combination of things. You got to have the brand. You got to know your numbers. Where are you making money, or are you losing money? You know, if you have a professional brand, you need professional training. You need good technicians that go out there and know what they're doing, know how to service an HVAC system, and then you got to know how to present options and
Hmm.
not just give them a one. Oh, well, this is what it takes to fix it. No, let's give them a bunch of options. Let's give them 6 options and let them choose, right? And if you know your numbers, it doesn't matter which option they pick because you're going to make money.
I want everybody to come to the next Total Immersion, the life-changing event where you increase your sales and your personal growth. What should we do? Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah, either way, the client has a choice, and sometimes they choose the lesser option, which is just a starter package, and they wind up doing more later, or they just do it all right now. Sometimes people do it both ways there, right? What have you learned in this process about, what were the things what's the most surprising thing that you say between the branding, between the training, between your numbers? What were some of the most, if you could say the most surprising things, like if some young entrepreneur is just starting out, what do you think some of the most surprising things they're going to learn would be? And what would you say surprised you the most about those 3 categories there?
What do you mean exactly? Surprised?
I don't know, like,
Like
well,
surprised?
what was like, I never realized, I didn't think this would make a big difference, or I didn't know this would, but like, I'm surprised that this made such a big impact. I didn't know that I thought it might, but I didn't know exactly the impact that it would make. Tell me, like, if you look at the brand, how about all 3 of these? If you look at the brand, what was a surprising benefit that, I mean, you knew you were going to get a nice picture and a logo, but what were some of the things that were surprising about the brand? Let's go over all 3 of those. What do you think? What was the most surprising thing about the brand that was a pleasant surprise that you just didn't realize would have that much impact? Would you say, besides just beside the picture? Because that's probably the initial thing you thought. We need to get a
Yeah,
logo, right?
it's very recognizable, and you can see it from across the room. And people were just like, "Wow, that just stands out." They look professional.
What kind of a feeling does the team have though, or does it give the team with that brand? Is there anything that's a certain emotional impact that the team has experienced, as opposed to whatever else you would have been doing? Because before that branding, it would have been just some T-shirts or something.
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah. I
Probably
think
wouldn't
with
have paid
this,
much attention to it. Yeah, tell us a little about that. How it helps the culture. Is that a surprise? I'm trying to guess lead you that direction there.
yeah, no, that
Feel
is a
about that.
surprise that it does help with the culture because there is a brand to get behind. You know, it resonates with our core values, our mission and vision statement, and it all coincides together. And the team can get behind that more rather than it's just like, oh, here's my company, here's these red, white, and blue trucks, and we're just such generic people out here. No, they they come here and it's this more sense of, oh, this is a professional environment, this is a community here, this is the brand, we're representing a brand, and people, the team loves it.
How about on the training, doing the options and all the stuff you've learned here? What was the most surprising thing that when you started out? So yeah, Joe Crisara, I heard he's really good. I read the book, but what was the surprising thing when you brought this to your team that was kind of a surprise to you? That was something you didn't expect to get, but turned out that you did. What do you say from that?
Just going out there and given those options and what customers actually do with options, because we used to just go out and just go, oh, well, this is a problem, here's the one solution to fix it, and that's it. And now you give multiple options, and it's just like people are more inclined to go more than just the economy or basic, hey, one part thing. one part fix. So I think it's just and the verbal packaging, the pure motive system that you offer, the guy, it makes a lot more sense.
How has the pure motives, they mentioned a pure motive service, which we believe in. How does that impact the way you communicate with your clients? Like before you start to communicate with your clients, whether it's on the initial call that comes in, or whether it's a customer concern you might have to handle, or whether it's a sales opportunity, or even a service job or an install. How does that affect the way you're communicating with your audience, the people in Chandler in that area?
It's more basically what we've been doing or since I've had the company, right? Because we're customer based. I always say we're a customer service business and we do AC work on the side. So it's really the pure motive system is just getting involved with the customer, getting on a personal level, learning their names, learning their kids' names, learning the pets' names in the house, and just getting that personal touch on it, and just making it seem like, yeah, we actually care about you. We care about you, your family, and so I think the pure motive system dials that in, and it's and when you do that, when you get to that personal connection, um, that people buy from people they like. When they like you, they'll buy more, right? You can't sell anything to anybody. People buy things, and that's a good way. So I think it really aligns with our values and what we're trying to do. Um,
I love that. I love that. The when you talk about that though, I know a lot of people are like, well, this all sounds good, but how do you get people to actually do this? And even yourself, right? It's like you got old habits and then you got the new stuff. Tell us about the transition from what you just did on your instincts, and how close were those two things together? Like what you've learned how to do at Service MVP, and also just in the experience with your clients and the pure motive service and everything coming together with the brand, the pure motive service, and the way you communicate. There's the final piece of doing it every day. Does that make sense there? And
yeah,
that's probably one of the biggest challenge, which is to actually do and implement all this stuff. Tell us, if you were, number one, here's a good question. A lot of new businesses like, hey, what you went from by yourself to hiring someone. So what is a good time to hire your first employee, would you say? And then number two, when you have them, let me ask the first question, then we'll go on to number two. How's that sound? So the first question, when's a good time to hire your first employee? What would you advise somebody on that part of it there?
well, I mean, I would hire them right away, right? And even if it's just a helper to sit in your truck, just to watch what you do, so you can train them to replicate you. That's how you're going to grow the business. You need another person in a truck so you can get out of a truck, right? I couldn't grow my business because I was in the truck too much.
Hmm,
And
that's good.
get a helper, get somebody just to watch you, there's no better time than now. Just hire somebody. And if you think you can't afford them, well, you can't not afford them. You have to. If you want to grow a business, you just got to hire somebody, and you got to hire the right person that resonates with you and just aligns with your values and your vision.
Hmm. And then you mentioned the training aspect of it, part of it there, and that training is an investment. And of course, a lot of times people feel a little vulnerable, like they're unsure about getting the return on the investment in training. Could you advise people whether the investment in training is a worthy investment, or if you would be better just to let people do their own thing, or what do you think on that? Tell me what your thoughts
Train,
are there.
Training is a non-negotiable part, and that's why you have to know your numbers so you can charge properly, so you can afford the training. You have to train your guys. You have to train your technicians or anybody on your team. The more training you give them, the smarter they get, the better product you put out there.
Hmm. In the companies that are especially in Arizona or in areas where it's either all out busy, so busy you can't even couldn't possibly keep up with it all, or it's completely dead. How do you, in a way like that, in a place like Chandler, Arizona, uh, find a way to weatherproof your business in a way that keeps the flow going, even when there's not any calls coming, because the weather's not. It's not always 120 degrees in Chandler. When it is, it becomes easier to get calls to come in. But what do you do when the calls aren't coming in, and that part of it there? How's that work? What advice would you give a company in that kind of a climate where it's not always something hot or cold? It's sometimes there's a drop off. How do you become weatherproof,
Yeah, I
George?
mean, we just lived in the AC world, right? I mean, we're balls to the walls May through September, and then that's it, and then it drops off. So what do you do then? You have memberships. You have to go out to your memberships and take time when you're on those calls, and then that's more time for you do all your training in the off season too. That's when you can train them on technical work, and then train them on sales, just like as we're doing with you. And because you're going to these people's houses once or twice a year, that's all you're doing. And people don't think about their AC until it's broken. So you got to go out there, and when you go out there, look at the whole system. Don't just look at one little part of it. You know, it's a whole house air filtration system, right? Because no matter what, it's filtering the air because you put a filter in it. So it's just, yeah, take your time. Uh, Memberships are key, and always investing back into your employees with training. All my guys love the training. They see that all the training that I'm putting in them, they feel like I really care about them, as I do, because I'm helping them grow. I'm investing in them.
Hmm.
And when you invest in them, they become better, and they just do better work. They're going to perform better, and they're going to want to do better, and they want to. So that's a big key step to being a good leader.
Well, I think to me, that's number one service that leadership gives a team is to say, here's the training I'm providing, because that's the service that you provide to them, honestly, to be able to feel comfortable to living up to the brand that you currently have. I feel that's an important element. Let's talk a little more about specifically the numbers. Like knowing your numbers is it's a general statement to say, and it's obviously I think anybody would say it's good advice. But I think a lot of times it's kind of faced when you tell people that, it can be kind of like, what do you mean? Like the numbers? Like, could you be a little more specific, George? Like when you were talking to that business owner that was at that training with us, what specifically do you think some of the things that people do need to know more specifically that are for you instrumental to growing the business with knowledge that you're moving the right direction? Tell me the importance of the numbers and what specifically numbers are the most important, and what do those numbers indicate, like for the action you need to take? Because numbers aren't just numbers; they're like things that indicate time to take action on something, right? So tell me a little bit more about that part, about the numbers, and dig into why that's so important. Number one, just start with that first. Why is that so important to you?
It's so important to understand where your money's going, right? You have all this money coming into your business, and if you don't look to see where it's going, then it's just they're going to run away. Every dollar you bring into your company is like an employee to your company.
Mm.
So if you have $1,000 that come in, you have $1,000. You have 1,000 employees. You got to tell every employee what to do. And if you don't watch that, if you don't set a budget to that dollar, it's going to run away. It's going to go party, and it's never going to come back.
Mm.
So one is becoming departmentalized. You got to separate your business. You have service, you have maintenance, and you have new equipment. A lot of times people lose money in maintenance and service, and they make it all into they don't realize that because they're making it back in new equipment. But they don't know which department they're making money or not making money, because you could be making money in your installs, which we all do because those are high ticket dollars. But in maintenance and service, you could be losing money. So one, departmentalize, separate the three services. This way you can really see, okay, is this department making money? And then knowing your margins, what's your gross margins, right? You have cost of goods sold. So above the line items is all relative to the cost of that job getting done. You know, there's certain margin that you want to be in. So you have to know, okay, is my direct labor too high, or am I undercharging, right? Am I not charging enough for the work? Because you're going to really understand that once you have it dialed in and you have departmentalized and you know what your gross margins are, and then your fixed cost below the line. What are you spending your money on? Your office, your phones, your utilities, your trucks, can you get cheaper insurance, right? Always, every month you should be checking these numbers once a month. You should have somebody doing your numbers. And if you don't, you don't have to be an expert on how to edit the numbers or put the numbers in. Find somebody that can do that for you, and just understand how to read a P&L sheet and how to read a balance sheet, right? Those are key things. You don't need to know how to do it all. You just need to know how to learn it and how to read it.
George, can you give me an example or tell me a story about, I'll ask this question a little slowly so you can give you a chance to acclimate to this question. I know you're going to say it's a good question, because I think this is like kind of this is like the landing spot for what you just said there, which is, tell me a story or a time that you did look at your profit and loss statement, or you look at your numbers, and something did come out to you. But here's more important: you found something that was a challenge, like, oh, that doesn't make sense, or whatever. This is a problem, or this number shows me a problem. And then what action resulted from knowing? Because I think that's the part that people don't understand, is just knowing the numbers is not good enough. It's knowing the numbers and then taking action to change the numbers. Like, we're not here to keep the same number, right, George? We're
Yes.
here to make sure the numbers look better the next month than they do this month, right? It makes sense there. So tell me, like, an example of a story that you saw something that's like, oh my God, look, I had a blind spot. I didn't even see that number, or I see the number now. Yeah, my goodness. I need to change the price, or change the people, or change the training, or what were some of the action things that you can tell us as a result of looking at your numbers that you had to take that have improved things at all out?
Well, yeah, that is a great question. And I think it goes from last year to this year, we made huge strides on what we made as a company. And it goes back to what my gross profit was. And last year, my gross profit was shit. It was like in the 30s. And that's not a good percentile to be in, right? You want your gross margins to be at least 50% or higher. So knowing that just told me, okay, well, one, I'm either paying too much for labor, I'm paying too much for parts and materials or equipment, and I'm undercharged. So that was an eye opener, right? So then beginning of the year, I went to my distributors and said, hey, I need a price cut. This stuff's getting ridiculously out of whack, and I can't afford to be buying from you. So maybe I had to, maybe you have to switch distributors on who you're working with, right? Maybe that's a thing. I didn't have to. I just talked to my distributors, my territory managers, and I got a price. I got them to reduce the price a little bit, but then I also increased my pricing. So then that automatically increased my gross margin, which was really key. And then I really dialed into my fixed costs and what I was spending my money on, because you could waste a lot of money on software out there. And I was like, well, is this software really doing it for us? Am I getting an ROI on this investment? And I was able to cut some of those things off, right? So we did last year, it's not big, but we did $900,000 in revenue, but I didn't even I lost $50,000. Mm-hmm. Where this year we did 1.2 million and we made 23% net profit off of that. Mm-hmm. So that was a huge difference. That just knowing those numbers and because I see companies now that are $4 or $5 million companies don't know their numbers, don't know what a gross margin is, what they should be at. They're doing $4 or $5 million and only making $50,000 off of that, and that's crap. What are you in business for if you're doing that?
Have you? I think you can imagine that people, because they're busy, especially in a place like Arizona, where you would just start hiring tons of more new employees. not knowing your numbers and really getting in trouble. Can you imagine seeing something like that, George, or is that something that
Oh, you see it all the time.
because I think that's one of the things I think that is the trap that hey, I need to get more trucks or I need to get more people. But if you're not like right now, I think you don't have that many employees. How many employees you working there right now, George?
I've got 3.
Yeah. So I mean, you got 3 employees. If you're not making money with 3 employees, what makes you think you're going to make money with 10 employees? Does that make sense? Like that. Like, what advice would you give people before they grow, or even take on other profit center? Because I see sometimes people like you who are like, I think I need to start doing plumbing to make more money. And it's like, dude, you're not making money with the current your current situation. Why do you think why do you think plumbing is going to make money when you're not making money with the current situation you got going? Could you speak on that a little bit more about some of that things you've been careful to avoid there a little bit more?
People think that they can outwork themselves. Well, if I just work a little harder, I can get there. If I just work a little harder, I can do that. But you can only work so many hours in a year, right? What can you work? 2,020 hours in a year.
Mm-hmm.
You want to work harder, maybe you can add an extra 500 hours, but that's working 6 days a week, 60 hours a week. You can only work so hard. So you got to work smarter. That's how you're going to make it. So get some process and procedures, and under less is more. Go back to the basics and do what you do best. Start there, and then you can grow. But if you don't have it dialed in with 3 employees or 2 employees or just yourself, getting more revenue is not the answer. Because if you don't know what you're doing with that revenue, it's meaningless.
Well, well, thank you, George, for this is a great interview. Honestly, I'm really having a great time. As always, every time I talk to you, I could talk for hours. But George, answer this final question here, and then you can expand. This is going to be you can get this clip for yourself and use it with your clients if you want to. So you're speaking directly now to the clients of Chandler, Arizona, and the surrounding areas of Chandler where you belong, where you are located. Tell me, speak with your heart here as to why should somebody in Chandler, Arizona, and the surrounding vicinity use all-out cooling and heating? What's the reason why they should use you? I got plenty of people I could use. Why should I use your company?
Well, you should use us because we care about you. We care about your home. We care about your family. We care about our community. We go all out. I named the company All Out for a reason, right? Because when I opened the business, I wanted to go all out for my community. I wanted to go all out for my friends. I wanted to go all out for my team members. And when we stand behind everything we do.
George, thank you so much for doing this podcast, and I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. Did you?
No, it was good. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, George. It's a pleasure talking to you. Anybody in Arizona, in Chandler, Arizona, and the surrounding vicinity who needs a company that's got heart, All Out is your company to use. I highly recommend them 100%. I should go give you a 5-star review, George, right now after this is
I
over.
appreciate that, Joe.
We could do
You
that.
can add to the 518 5-star reviews we have so far. So,
well, that's good. I'll be 519. I'll remember that's my number. Thanks, George. Have a great one.
all right, take care. Thank you.